I look forward to this Train Smart episode. We have a very bright individual that is a chiropractic or a chiropractor from Logan University. He owns the company called Elite Spine Plus. And to kind of take it off from here, I will let him take off, introduce himself, and kind of explain his professional background, education, and all that.
Well, thanks, Dane. Thanks for having me here at LinkFit. I know we just met a couple months ago, was it? NSCA, Missouri. Yep. Great weekend. You know, it was, I learned a lot, including a lot of HRV. I mean, I've heard about it before and I knew it was floating around, but you totally changed the way that I looked at HRV.
Happy to do so.
Thank you. So yeah, I teach for Logan at the moment. I'm an adjunct, and I actually graduated from Logan this past December with my degree in chiropractic, and started working for a company here until I have decided to go on my own. Right. So that is one of the most recent steps that I've done, including, you know, setting up a marriage and, you know, working with my fiance into getting married at the end of the month. So that's also been a lot in the back of my mind. And
it takes a lot out of you.
It does, you know, it's fun, but stressful. I think I'm going bald, but hopefully that's not.
Hopefully the beard's not going bald.
No. This one's staying strong. It's up here that every once in a while, it's just, oh my God, what is that? I graduated from Missouri State back in 2013 with a degree in exercise and movement science and a minor in biomedical sciences. It's been a long time since I had to say that, so I almost forgot. Because now everything changed to the kinesiology department.
Yep.
So now everybody graduating with an EMS, it's it's kinesiology. I'm like, well, sure.
Well, why?
After that, I coached for 2 years, strength and conditioning at a gym called Strong Gym. Amazing facility. It is now called Royal Barbell, and that's in Springfield, Missouri. So pretty neat. After that, I did management for an Anytime Fitness, where I also did a little bit of personal training. Still continued with strength and conditioning. I think I really enjoy lifting weights. I'm not sure, but we'll go with that. Cardio is definitely not one of my favorite exercises. But something was missing. And throughout my whole life, I always thought that I was going to end up doing a little bit something different. And I always wanted to help somebody. So my ultimate goal was to be able to help as many individuals as I could. And I found that through strength and conditioning my first 3 years. But originally I had gone to school to finish a degree in cell molecular biology to go to med school. Yes. But there was this one class that I just didn't like, and the class didn't like me either, and it was virology. And viruses were not my to go, and I hated looking into a microscope. And I'll be honest, I couldn't hack it, and I was not going to repeat it. So that's when I kind of took a little bit of a different turn, and I went to a pre-professional route through the exercise and movement science. Nice. Then that's what I finished with, right? As a part of that, you also get to choose whether you're going to do the ACSM test or the NSCA test. So I went with the strength and conditioning test through the NSCA. I would do it all over again if that was the case. Yeah. But, 3 years out of school, well, actually, this was late 2015. So 2 years and a half out of school, something was missing, and I went to a chiropractor because I was having some knee pain. And at that point, I only thought chiropractors adjusted the spine. Naive person, didn't really know much about them. Yep. Most of the time I went to my medical doctor just for them to tell me, it's like, oh yeah, we agree with what you have, right? That's what we do. We talk to Dr. Google first, then we make our appointment and we tell them what we found, right?
Exactly.
The chiropractor ended up adjusting my hip, my knee, my ankle. And man, I didn't have any more pain for the next 2 to 3 months. And at that point, I was just like, okay. So I went back, talked to him, and he told me, he's like, listen, man, this is your medical doctor, this is your physiotherapist, this is your registered dietitian, but then this is chiropractic.
Yeah.
Right? It's just more for general practice of a little bit of everything. And as you dive into chiropractic, you can go and say you're going to treat geriatrics, or you're going to treat chronic pain, or you're going to treat infants, or you're going to want to specialize with a specific population, whether it's sports, and then you have your subdivisions from there. So I was like, let's look into it. Well, within a week, I was enrolled in school.
Nice.
And within 3 months, I was starting my first trimester at Logan University back in September 2015.
Nice.
And fast forward, I've always enjoyed sports, and I am in the process of trying to continue my sports practice and develop a little bit more of a education for sports. And that is how I started Elite Spine Plus.
Nice. Congrats, man. That's awesome.
I want to join chiropractic and strength conditioning, and I feel that everybody in today's world has lost a lot of their strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we sit so much, because we spend so much time in one position, because we come home and we sit again, and we go to work and we sit again, and we're in the car and we sit, right? So our body is not used to any more load than it used to be. Back when, my parents tell me, oh, I used to walk 10 miles to school. Nobody would do that today.
Not anymore.
I mean, not anymore. If you think about it, most people are like, oh my God, I walked a mile to school, and they're dying. Their feet hurt, their backs hurt, everything's in pain, and we're just not used to it anymore, because we have that convenience of a car, a bus, a motorcycle, bicycle, whatever it may be. Yeah. So I want to bring back that robustness and resilience of the body to everybody, not just to athletes, but to also just the general population. I can't remember where I heard this quote. It's probably one of my seminars, and it's bad of me that I don't remember the instructor that said it, but it said an athlete and the general population only differ by degree. Yeah. We all have to hinge, we all have to squat, we all have to press, we all have to walk, lunge, carry, etc. You do it in a different way. I do it in a different way. A sprinter does it in a different way. So it's just the degree of the activity that we're changing, but we're not changing much of the pattern itself either.
That's so true.
So that's where I'm at right now in life, and trying to build this this chapter of my life is going to be a little challenging, because not a lot of people understand that chiropractic can be beneficial. And, if we go back to history, chiropractic has had its questionable debates, and, moving forward into an evidence-based society, a lot of it that is, well, how does it work? Or why did it work? Or why didn't it work for me? Yeah. Those kind of questions kind of bring a little bit of an uncertainty, which nobody likes. Right? Nobody likes being uncertain, but if you think about it, that's the essence of life. You're uncertain of what's going to happen 10 minutes from now.
Absolutely.
You may have a plan, or you may expect something to go away, but hey, you know what? You couldn't find a shoe, or you lost your sock, or your fiance is drinking her coffee too slow. Doesn't matter, but things are going to change, and it's that uncertainty that it's a part of life, and everybody should embrace it a little bit. But I want to thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's awesome. So I love kind of like everything that you've done within like just the process of getting there. And I love the part about, what we're going to be talking today is like bridging the gap between chiropractic and performance. And it's the variety of different concepts that are actually involved within chiropractic, which I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like you said, like when you first went into chiropractor to a chiropractor for your appointment, you kind of just think, oh, spine, and that's it. But there's more to it than just that. Like, it's just, it's the broad world of just overall sports medicine and like the things that we can obviously grab within each one of those and combining them together. And I love the fact that you're putting like the strength and conditioning protocols into that, just because when it comes into treatments and interventions, like we need to strengthen the body. And a lot of people always just kind of like isolate the one specific area and they forget about everything else that can cause the issue. And I love the fact that you're involving that. And I love all the videos that you've been posting about like Olympic lifting, because, you know, there's some individuals that, you know, I love the part about practice what you preach. Like if you are bridging the gap between performance, well, it's like, are you aware of the performance protocols? Like, you know, what are the rep ranges? What are the intensities that you should be working with? Like, how does your body manipulate movement? And like you said, like, you know, everyone moves to a specific degree. It's just depending on what sport or what activity, what occupation they're going to be in. But everyone should squat, everyone should hinge, everyone should push vertically, horizontally. But it might be different among each one of those individuals. But I kind of actually had a question, because I know you answered like a little bit, but really, what really drove your passion towards chiropractic?
You know, I think it was that conversation, and I remember this doctor, his name is Dr. Clay Horseman, and he just moved to Utah. But it was that exact conversation where he said, you know, chiropractic is here versus, you know, you got your general practitioner and all that stuff, where he really subdivided, you know, everybody in the medical community, you know, and that's their specialty. But let's say that somebody comes in with GIE issues, you know, they can't go to the bathroom or they have stomach pain. They narrow it down to what's going on with the stomach, right? Like what's going on with the stomach? Oh, it's not the stomach. What's going on with the intestine? It's not the intestine. And then they send them somewhere else, right? And it was that holistic view of not just natural, but like as a whole, that a chiropractor has, you know, and I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of chiropractors still take pride on, that is we don't just look at where the pain is coming from, we look at the whole chain, right? Everything that could be involved, because in the end all be all, the body is ruled by the central nervous system, you know, and it responds to the central nervous system, right? And everything that you do in the body, whether it's eating or whether it's going out for a run or lifting weights or even being stung by a bee, it's the stressor, and your body responds to the stress, and it responds to many different ways. And it was that way that in my, you know, or actually in my heart, I was like, you know what, like if I was to stress the person in the proper way, I could help them be who they want to be, or reach the goals that they want to reach, right? And it was such an infancy back then when I first had my conversation with Dr. Horseman, that I wanted to do everything, right? I wanted to be that general practitioner of chiropractic, and it wasn't until I was in school that I was still lifting and I was still injuring myself, and I was trying to fix why my knee was going valgus, right? Why was it going in? Why is it not staying outside? And it took me a minute, you know, going from just that strength and conditioning portion of just being immature and trying to be a bodybuilder, and just, oh, I need more glute med, right? I need more abduction of my hips. So trying to work on that stuff. And then I developed a little bit of tendonitis on my hip. And I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? And it came down to be my toes. You know, I wasn't planting, I wasn't pushing through my feet. So I was missing that like ground force reaction that should have been there from the beginning.
Hopefully it's not your calves, because you got some mad calves, man.
Listen, man, I don't even know how I got those calves, but I want to thank my dad. Thank you, Father, for those amazing calves. I do take a lot of pride in my calves. My fiance says that my biceps are really small and they may not be as huge as Corey's, but I'm working on it. But he cannot say that he's got better calves than me, I think. I have not seen him in shorts. But anyway, but that's where my passion kind of came from, you know, being able to understand how the body relates, not just one part, but as a whole link, and just being able to not just say, you know what, your knee doesn't hurt because you've injured it, but it's because this is the pattern that you have. you know, and if we just change this or tweak it a little bit, walk around it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and the pain just slowly dissipates, you
Absolutely.
know. And I think that missing in most healthcare is what technically ends up driving, not only just biomechanically but also in a psychological fashion, it ends up driving a lot of chronic pain, where people say, my knee hurts, I've gone to the knee doctor, the knee specialist, I've gone to a PT, I've gone to this and I've gone to that, and nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden they go to a chiropractor. You hear these stories all the time.
Yeah.
I went to a chiropractor, they adjusted my hip and did this and did a little bit of that and then wiggled my toes, and I didn't have any more pain since then, you know. And you're just like, what? Like, are these even real? You know? So it was then when I said, you know what, this is life changing. Like, I had it, you know, my knee, I had a little bit of patellar tendonitis at the beginning, and he adjusted me, changed a little bit of my squat, and it was done.
Yeah.
You know, and at that point, that's when I said, you know, I have to merge the biomechanics aspect of strength and conditioning to how chiropractors view the system.
Absolutely.
You know? And it wasn't until after your talk where the HRV kind of hit me, and it was, you know, all about the recovery process. You know, if your body is never able to, if you're in chronic pain, is because your body's not able to recover properly.
Absolutely.
You know, and what's driving that could be psychosocial, could be biomechanical, could be who knows, right? And it's and I think as part of a chiropractic profession, we looking at the whole of the person, we have to be able to identify whether it's a psychosocial issue, whether they are, you know, they got hurt and they've had a bad experience with the pain, or they just simply got hurt because they have bad technique, and it just so happened that they never recovered properly and the body said, I give up. You know, so that's where kind of my whole passion for it comes through.
That's
you know,
awesome.
being able to tell somebody, you know, even at the gym where I work out sometimes, I'm like, hey, lift your hips a little bit, right? And deadlifting, just easy. You know, I have a lot of kids that come by and they see me deadlifting, and obviously, I mean, I don't put like tremendous weights all the time up, but they see me deadlift 3 to 4 times a week, and they come on and ask me, it's like, hey, how's your low back not killing you? And it's like, well, I have a different proportion than you do, and this is how I deadlift, you know. And then I take my 5 minutes and kind of cueing them a little bit on how they should deadlift, because that's another thing, right? And we can talk about it a little bit more as we go through this. Everybody has that like perfect stance, you know, like you should squat like this, you should deadlift like this, you should clean like this, you should jerk like this, whatever it may be. But and I think a lot of coaches end up doing this mistake, is we forget about the proportions of the body. Somebody may have a longer tibia, somebody may have longer femurs, somebody may have longer arms, and that changes everything. Their torso might be shorter, so their deadlift and everything else, you know, it's going to, by a degree, change their stance. And if you as a coach say, no, your feet have to be right underneath your hips, your hands have to be right outside your knees, and now you have a rounded back, and you're expecting this kid to continue working out like this, I mean, I'm not the person to says, you know, perfect form at all times, but when you train and you practice, you want to have the cleanest form, right? Now, when it becomes to your performance on the field, on the platform, wherever it may be, a lot of the times, I mean, there's no football player that tackles with chin down, neutral spine, arms by your side, you know, head tilted a little bit. Like, that doesn't happen. I mean, and if you look at football nowadays, they all just grabbing and just hugging and just hoping that they fall.
They're so big nowadays.
Yeah, there is just, you know, just like, here we go. But I think that's what drives me a little bit more. Just being able to teach people and educate them on like their body and how they should move for themselves, right? And whether sometimes that may fall within the basic premises, great. But if we have to change something, this is why, and this is why it doesn't work for you, and this is why it will work for you. And that's literally what drives everything for me right now.
That's
It's
awesome.
being able to help somebody in the most small degree to make better and larger changes.
Absolutely, man. It's I love that. It's just I really love the last, like, honestly, like the last 2 minutes, what you just said, like about just movement quality is like huge. And that's going to be different upon everybody. And that's one big thing that I've always said in my coaching, like depending on the person's surgical neck of like their femur, like if, depending on the angle of that, like they could be a little bit wider. Now they could be a little bit more narrow. And that's one of my big things that I always use myself as an example. Like, watch me squat. Like when I squat, if I go out really, really wide, I can't go down far. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have a mobility restriction. It just means that my femur neck is totally different from yours. But yet if I go a little more narrow, I go down and I'm like full depth. And that's huge. And I love the part that you just said, like educational properties, like, implementing that. And I think that's huge, and that's one of my big things that I work with a lot of my clients as well. Is, the things that we teach you as a squat pattern or like hinging down and all these different types of things, like that's going to transfer to what you do in just daily movement, like sitting down in your chair. Like, do you sit down in a chair or do you like flop down in the chair?
Right, right.
My back hurts all the time. I'm like, well, I see how you sit down in a chair, like, and you've done that every single session that I've been here. You don't do it with like confidence and like movement quality and actually like prepping your body to like get ready for that position. You just kind of like flop down.
Yep.
And it's like, and then like my left side hurts. I'm like, well, I could see you're shifting on that side a little bit more. So something tells me that there's probably something going on within that general area of that side. And it could be something that's dramatically on the other side. And that's the thing about the kinetic chain. And you hit the dot on that. Like everything is connected. And I think that's what the general population, I think they really can get a really good learning tool. And a big takeaway from this is this: everything is connected. Like, it's crazy to visualize it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, your body is connected as one. If you look at your skin, like everything's connected. Like you are a one individual. It's not like your arms all the way over there. It's not like your shoulders over here. It's like everything is connected in congruency to make that movement happen. And then I would imagine, like, all these different things are what we learn within the academics. And I see that heading in that direction. Like, where our academic programs or our curriculums are now starting to change a little bit. And you see that in some universities, their exercise science program, their chiropractic program, their physical therapy program, their athletic training program. Like, these are changing. And I love that. Like, that is like my biggest thing. It's like, I love seeing academics change. Because like you said, evidence-based practice is what should really drive it. But there is more to evidence-based practice than just research. A lot of people are like, oh, this article said that. Be like, well, my experiences that I've had for 15 years says this.
Right.
And that's huge.
And that's one thing, I was never, in undergrad, I was never a research person. I read the books and I did my homework and I read the articles and then I did my summaries, and that was, the end of my research. Now I applaud you for going the extra miles and actually doing your own research and writing it down. And that's something that like recently, probably within the last year, I've been a little bit more intrigued about, right? Like the whole research thing. We take like I said, I'm not like this research guru and everything like that. So, sorry if I screw up, the whole system.
All good. I still don't even understand it all the way. So
okay, great. For those chiropractors that are watching this, or anybody, if my professors are watching, I'm sorry. I try to pay attention. But you have your most respectable research, right? Which are your RCTs, right? Or RTCs, randomized controlled trials, RCTs, right? And they may pose a question: do we really change tissue, right? And is foam rolling really tissue changing? And it's like, okay, you know what? The article or the research that 100 people have done or 200 people have done says that no, there's no tissue change. And I was like, okay, you know what? We can get behind that. Like, it's been proven there's no tissue change, like none whatsoever, zero. But then why do people have increased range of motion, right? Why are people feeling better after that? Why are people less in pain? Or why do the soreness go away? And I think a lot of the times we don't ask these questions when it comes to research, right? We just say foam rolling doesn't work to change tissue, right? And now you have this whole social media move that foam rolling sucks. Don't do foam rolling. Don't do this. Why does that, it doesn't do what it says it does. It's like, okay, all right. But and this is just my personal opinion, but what is the problem of doing foam rolling if a patient or a client feels better after it?
Even if it's
It takes
placebo.
5 minutes. Exactly.
Like, if they feel
it
good,
takes 5
placebo,
minutes.
it's fine.
Right. So to me, that it really bugs me when people say, don't do foam rolling because it doesn't change tissue. Okay, but what does it do to the nervous system?
No.
Because if you bear down everything, again, we go back to how the body responds to the stress, right? And it could be just from your mechanical stress, chemical stress, whatever stress you want to apply to the body is going to react in some way. And it does so, right, by contacting the brain, telling them what's up, and the brain does some changes. And it's neurological change, not essentially tissue change, But these are the questions that people are not bringing forth. And I mean, if they are, they obviously are not getting the social media attention as that person that says foam rolling sucks, don't do that, right? Could there be better ways to foam roll? Sure. Could there be better ways to get rid of soreness? Yes, right? There's multiple ways to skin a cat. There's multiple ways to, reach a perfect recovery or a better recovery. But I think that, saying like, putting that negative narrative on something and like bastardizing something, it's just, why? Like, why is that necessary?
Yep.
And that's always what's baffled me about research, like, okay, well, if the question is, how does a chiropractic, does chiropractic work?
Yep.
Well, you have so many trials that say it's no better than a massage or whatever, right? But you have people that have gone to a massage therapist. You have people that have gone to a physiotherapist and have no changes or no results, and then they go get manipulated, by a chiropractor, and boom, no more pain. Like, how do you answer that question?
And that's the thing. There's so many different ways to answer it too, and it's like depending on what the intervention was, and that's like kind of what I wanted to bring up about the foam rolling. It's like I've heard that, and that's the thing about research. There's research that says yes, and there's research that says no. But it's a big thing that we have to look at that method section. Like the one person that said no, it does not work. Well, what did they do? Like how did they do it? What was the brain pressure threshold? Like what was the density of the foam roller? How long did they do it for? What was the RPE for that particular pressure for this individual? What was the tool? Like there's so many different things that we can do to manipulate that. And then, there's the individuals that say no. And, and I've always respected them. Do I agree with it? No, it's just, I do like foam rolling. It's one of those things, but there are research that says no. And I've seen that. Like I've seen just the overall soft tissue manipulation aspect to just a standardized foam rolling or instrument soft tissue mobilization. There's a comparison factors of those two things.
Yeah.
The manual approach versus somebody else doing it. And that's the thing. It's like, it's just really diving deep into the research and actually looking at the methods. And, it's like, okay, you said no, but you're basing it off of this one research project that this scholar said, yes, it does work, but your method section is totally different.
Totally different. Yeah.
Like you can't, like now you're saying it, and then all of a sudden that's the thing about professionalism within the industry of journals and all that. Then arguments happen where it's not necessarily an argument, it's more of a debate, which that can happen. That's good for the industry, I believe. Like,
I mean, I think a healthy debate on any circumstance on any topic is good, right? Because a debate It's not whether you're right or wrong, is how can we come to an agreement and how can we move forward. It is when things kind of become the argument, where
Yep.
if we change it into an argument, somebody has to be right and somebody has to be wrong.
No,
Exactly.
no.
Yes. You know, and that's where kind of like, you know, following social media accounts is just, sometimes to me, it's a little funny to see how people are like,
Absolutely.
oh, foam rolling sucks, massage therapy sucks, or, you know, chiropractic is a sham. And, you know, I look back and I'm like, well, how many trials has, you know, have medicine failed?
No.
How many things they've said, it works 10% of the time, but we're still going to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know,
That's the thing with our medicine. It's kind of, it's a dirt road and there's a lot of bumps in it still that definitely need to be paved.
So, you know, when something kind of works in a different way of what people usually say it works, but it's a good thing, you know, especially when it comes to musculoskeletal pain. What's the problem with a person foam rolling for 5 minutes every day in the morning so that their hips don't hurt?
Yep.
You know, could they walk more? Sure. Could they go to the gym and squat, you know, a couple of times a day or a couple of times a week to kind of strengthen those muscles? Yeah. But you forget that you're talking to people that in today's day and age are on a plane going somewhere, you know, sit on the desk for 7 to 8 hours, answering phone calls, making making sure somebody is, you know, doing what they need to do. So they're not just taking that body stress of just sitting on the chair for 8 hours, but they're also, you know, under psychological stress.
Yeah.
They may be malnourished, you know, even though they may go to McDonald's every day, they're still not getting, you know, those chicken nuggets. I swear, they get me all the time. No, I haven't had McDonald's in like, I think 12 years.
That's a good thing.
Burger King is where I go. I'm just kidding. But it's again, we go back to the stress of what that person's under, whether it's nutritional, metabolic, or it's just simply biomechanical stress or even psychological. It's the body itself is going to react in a certain way, and it's going to be up to them to try to change it.
Yeah.
But we live in a society that, you know, you can go to a medical doctor and they'll give you muscle relaxants, or they give you a laxative, you know, and you feel good for the next couple of days. Then you stop it and you're back to where you started, right? So that's where the education comes in part, you know, being able to really tell people, listen, this is what's going on, or this is what I feel like it's going on, because, you know, all sorts of kind of assessments are based on your history and what you know and you don't know. So, you know, this is what's going on. This is what we can do about it, and see you in 3 to 4 weeks, right? Yeah. Patient gets better, great. Patient gets worse, let's change the treatment, right? And if at that point, you know, the patient's getting worse with some red flags and all that stuff, let's refer you out. Let's see what can we do from another view, right? Let's get another opinion here. And I think that's really important now, you know, moving into that evidence base where you can't just, again, say that it's a stomach issue just because your stomach hurts, or because you can't go to the bathroom, you know. But yeah,
there's a lot to it, and I love that. It's like, you know, and it kind of getting into that, like, you know, bridging the gap, you know, and I know you've talked about it so far, like you definitely hit the dot on a lot of different things, but what does it really mean to you to like to bridge the gap between chiropractic and performance? What does that mean?
Well, to me, it's really not just focusing on the biomechanical aspect of one thing, right? Okay. It's bringing a little bit more of the heat of what's going on up here and how is this responding to everything else, right? It's not just saying, oh, you know, like I've said earlier, it's not just saying your hip hurts because of this, or you torn your ACL because of this, right? There are many things that led to that point, right? Whatever happened 3 months prior might have affected you throughout the whole time that you were playing soccer until, boom, your ACL blew, right? And ACLs are most mechanical in nature. But if you have a patient that is not responding to treatment, to your mechanical treatment, there has to be something else, right? And that's where bridging the gap between chiropractic and the performance aspect of it in my practice comes in a way of what is going on at the basic level of psychology. How are you recovering properly, right? Where's your head at when you're in the games? Where's your head at right now when you're in treatment? Are you present, or are you playing on your phone, right, while I'm taking you through ranges of motion? Or are you really doing your homework when I tell you, I want you to squat to 45 degrees, no more than that, right? I want to have a quarter squat, 10 squats, 3 times a day for the next week, right? And then we'll move forward.
Yep.
It is that aspect of me bridging the gap between how am I going to get this person better than they came from, right? And being able to send them back to play versus just I'm going to get them to no pain and then everything else can go their own way. They have athletic trainers for that reason. They have strength and conditioning coaches for that reason. But I think, especially with athletes, it's that link between the doctor, the athletic trainer, and the coach that it's missing, right? So the doctor says, and I heard it from a lot of people that I've worked with. My PT said not to squat 20 pounds, not to squat more than 20 pounds. And it really makes me wonder, do they weigh you? Because you're looking at a 180-pound person doing bodyweight squats. I mean, if we just take, from the knees up, you're still 160 pounds.
Yep.
That load is still going through your knee. You're loading 160 pounds through the knee.
Yep.
So how can they tell you not to squat more than 20 pounds, or don't go so deep, and it really, I think at that point, it comes down to liability.
Yep.
The PT says, don't do this because I don't want you to come back and say, you told me that I was ready to squat, right? But I think it's linked from the PT to the coach to say, hey, this patient should not squat more than 120 pounds for the next 3 weeks, and then no more than 200 pounds for the next 6 weeks, and then no more than 300 pounds for the next 3 months. Yeah. And it's where I am trying to make more of a connection with the coaches and the staff and teams to say, hey, you know what? Based on our treatment, based on today and everything that we have done for the last 6 weeks, Sam can come back and squat up to 150 pounds and he can start running.
Yep.
Right. And that's where your strength and conditioning program should begin for him.
Yep.
Maybe 400-meter walkthroughs, maybe 400 meters, 60% sprint, 600, 700, and all that stuff. And that's where the coach kind of just comes into play and say, okay, you know what? I have this information. This is how I'm going to program for Sam.
Yep.
Right. And that's where the ATC comes in. It's what are they doing? Right. Like, how can I keep Sam in recovery mode when he's not training? Right. Whether it may be the stem, right, or whether it may be an ice bath, I don't know, right? Whatever they kind of have on their own to help aid in some of that recovery and get him from that sympathetic state back to a parasympathetic state where most of the recovery we all know happens.
Yep.
And at the practice where I was at, I was really fortunate to be inside a CrossFit gym where I saw a few amount of CrossFitters come in, with the CrossFit aches and pains, and some of them were more strains and muscle pull and, just a little bit of like, I overdid it. Yeah. And, the first couple of times when I saw the people, the patients, they would come back and be like, well, I was feeling really good. And then I did thrusters, or I did box jumps, and the next day it killed me. And I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong in that instance, and I go, after my appointment with them, I go back through, through my notes and through my head. I was like, okay, this is what we did. This is what we did. She should have felt better, or he should have felt better. And then it's like, oh, but I don't know what they did.
Yeah.
I just know that they did thrusters, but I don't know if they went lighter, if they avoided going all the way down, if they avoided all the way extension. Where did they break the chain, right?
There's so many things.
And me not being present in the class, who can I go to? The coach, right? So now I go to the coach and I ask, it's like, hey, so-and-so was here last week. I want to make sure, that this is, they came in, got an injury. This is what's going on, right? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? They RX the workout. I was like, oh, okay, but is RXing the workout good enough because they're still in pain?
Yeah.
Right? Is it helping? So that's when I kind of started taking a little bit more of a approach of contacting the coach in front of the patient, and bringing them together and saying like, hey, so-and-so has this injury. I've recommended not to squat to full depth, actually not to do any box jumps. And when they do pull-ups, this is what they're doing. Now that coach is able to tell all the other coaches the same thing, and I'm hoping that they're doing it, because this patient may come into different classes, see different coaches.
Yep.
And depending on the workout, they may be like, oh, this coach doesn't know, because we all do it.
Yep.
We feel good, we think we can hack it, and then we load 300 pounds on the bar, and the next day we're like, I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And that's where bridging the gap is coming more for me.
Yep.
Right? Because in my practice, I've already done where I take my patient, take him through a full functioning movement screen, right? I do a lot of SFMA, and then I load them.
Yep.
Because here is where I found most issues. It's like, oh, my back hurts. Okay, where? Well, here, but it doesn't hurt until I'm snatching 120 pounds.
Yeah.
So what is the point of snatching a PVC pipe?
Yeah.
If you can snatch it all day long in front of me, how am I going to assess what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? It isn't until we load them, 95 pounds, 100 pounds, where they may start like breaking their form.
Yep.
Where they actually are starting to commit that atrocity of, compensation. Yep. That we can see like, oh, at 100 pounds, your scapula wings, you twist left, and then you come up.
Yep.
And now they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And you can't see that with a PVC pipe. I mean, the thing is light.
Sometimes it's hard. Like, you're like,
oh my God, I have no, like my clean and jerk, it's like by my nose. Yeah, I'm ready. You load me.
I'm going to knock my nose off.
Yeah. And I try to keep it trimmed, because sometimes it catches it. I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you do it. But that's where I kind of come in with bridging the gap, right? Making sure that what we're doing in the clinic is applicable outside of the clinic, and it has a good progressive overload, right? And that's where that strength and conditioning comes in, because I want no part in that, because I don't want to be on somebody's toes.
Yep.
But I want to give my notes and everything that we've done in the clinic to the coach or the athletic trainer and say, this is what we have done. This is where they're at. This is how they should progress.
Yep.
After that, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense, though.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into it.
And it's not just for athletes, but just for the general population. Sometimes it's just realizing where and at what point we can load them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's what's missing in this sense of, in this style of practice, is the load.
Yeah.
It's that rehabilitation exercise where, somebody comes in with wing scapulas, and you're going to have them have, hey, we're going to do 30 to 40 pull-up parts. Okay, we're retraining a good motor pattern. Yep. But now they go and they do 30 pull-up parts every single day, right? And they think that is part of their warm-up. but then you never changed it. You never did anything else about it, right? So for them, that's their exercise, that's their warm up, and they may come in with a different, complaint the next day because they did 40 pull aparts and now they strain one of the, rotator cuffs muscles, and now you're back to square one because you got to load them in a different way. So I think that progressively changing your exercises, and like I tell my patients, it's, the exercises that I give you are not for you to do every single day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
These are tools that once you leave, if you ever have pain again in the similar sense, you know how to treat it before you come back to me.
Yeah.
Say, you have mid-scapular pain, we do some rotator, we do some band pull aparts, it gets better, feels better. For the next month, you don't show up. Then all of a sudden you did something weird, back to that pain. Instead of, coming back to me and having to start all over again, you can do it at home.
Yeah.
Feels better, great. Another month without them, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, come back. It may be something else,
Yeah.
and it may be a bad business, motto to not bring my patients back to me every single week or every single month.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I want to create. I want to create a community of resilient and robust individuals that can take care of themselves.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. I love that you just said that. Like, it's the self-care approach. Like, that's like a big thing that I've always tried to implement. Like, and I've even said this to a lot of my clients, like doing our online coaching, face-to-face, whatever it may be. It's like when you coach somebody, it's like, I do understand that these individuals might not be with me forever, which respect it. Like, I'm hoping that I've educated you enough to walk into a gym and be like, all right, this is how I should prepare my body. This is like the end of my warm up. All right, now I'm going to my primary load. This is the movement that I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to recover after my session.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you don't, or even it's like, if it is, say, an injury based or a pain perception and all that type of stuff, like, as a physical therapist, chiropractor, athletic trainer, like physician, like we're hoping that you have educated enough instead of just keep coming in like, all right, here's another $120. Here's another $120. Here's another $120. Here's another $120, where it adds up. And, it's like, we know that prices of what we do for a living as a healthcare professional, it is expensive. Like, it is. And it's truthfully getting more expensive, like where it's not getting cheaper. It's not like it's like tuition. It unfortunately isn't heading towards the direction of getting to be $10 per credit.
No.
and
Unfortunately.
It's sad.
But that's the thing. Being smart comes with a price.
Yeah.
If being smart was easy, everybody would be a genius.
Yeah.
And there's very few people, at least, that I have met, that understand the subject in a matter of seconds. And am I jealous of them? Of course I am, because it takes me a month, right? It takes me a month to fully understand one subject or X amount idea or a thought or a process or whatever it may be, while to some of them may be like, oh yeah, I learned it over the weekend at a course, and they did it like 3 to 4 times, and yeah, they're like super proficient at it. And I'm like, I hate you. Where's my coffee?
Where's my caffeine?
Yeah. I need more coffee to like you. But all education is expensive.
Yeah.
And, me going through a few seminars, now that I look back at some of the seminars, I'm like, oh, you know what? I spent, I don't know, $3,000 on 6 seminars. And when you narrowed them down to the basic premise, it's like, oh, they're all the same premise.
Yeah.
The body responds to a stressor, right? The body responds to external stimulus. It's just the different lens by where they view it and what they do as a treatment that changes.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's like, if if you're looking at it as a biomechanical approach, if you know what the muscle does, what the joint should be doing, and how it should be responding, you apply excess stress here in a short or long lever, and you get a result.
Yep.
Right? Now, is that a positive result? Is that making the patient better? Is that making them a little bit more compliant with their treatment? Is it making their pain better? Or is it a negative response?
Yeah.
And depending on what you want as a clinician, and I've found a little bit that sometimes the individual needs a little bit of a negative response to understand what a positive response feels like.
Yep.
And it's like, this is what I don't want you to feel. This is what I want you to feel, and all this information, somebody else did the legwork of learning it, providing you with the tools and all that stuff. And yeah, should they be compensated? Of course. So I think sometimes seminars are a little expensive and somehow always hosted in the most expensive cities in the United States. But there was a seminar that I really wanted to go, and it was in Oregon. No, Seattle. It was in Seattle. And it was about $1,100. And it was for students, and they gave you a $100 break as a student discount. So I was like, oh my God, $1,000 sounds great. 3-day weekend. And when I looked at hotels and Airbnbs, they were all between $200 and $400 a night.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, that's $3,000, just seminar and stay, plus including food. And I love to eat, so I put about $400 in there too.
Put about another 3,000.
Yeah. Put another $3,000 because, it's Seattle and I'm going to try everything good. But sometimes, it's like, okay, could you get to that information on your own?
Yeah.
Sure. Can it take you time? Is it going to take you time? Yes, of course it is. And that's where you as clinician and healthcare practitioner, you're not charging for the time you spend with that patient. You're charging for the education that has taken you to be able to say in 10 minutes, this is what's up, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And there is this amazing quote. It's actually a little story where, and the owner of a train has this like old school locomotive, right? And it just won't start. It's got multiple engineers coming in, paying thousands of dollars out. They can't get it running, right? Finally, they call an 80-year-old man engineer who knows how to work with these kind of locomotives, comes in, takes a 5-minute look at it with a wrench, turns the screw 3 to 4 times, says, hey, this is going to be $15,000. And the owner is like, what the hell, man? Like, you spent 6 minutes. I've paid thousands of dollars for people that spend here days and weeks and months. Why am I going to pay you $15,000? Well, because I made it run.
No.
I spent, a good chunk of his life learning how to do the job the most efficient way to get the best results.
Correctly.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's the value there? Like, the value is no longer the time.
Yeah.
It's the experience that you have and the efficiency at which you can do it.
Yeah.
You're a good clinician, you get results. I think you should be compensated for helping somebody else.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. I mean, it's things are expensive, but it's like, I do believe that it's like, if you spend a lot of money on these different degrees, these different certifications, and, definitely these continuing education things that are $1,000, $2,000 and everything. But I love the fact that you just said, like, someone else did that lit review. Like, someone else looked into it, bridged it a little bit. They connected the dots. They really determined how the best efficiency way to do it. And I love that last part of the story. That was actually perfect. It's just because of the fact of, it is going to be expensive, but they did it right. Like, another individual, they spent $1,000, didn't fix it. Another person, $2,000, they didn't fix it. And then all of a sudden, the person that spent maybe half of the time that they all just did it, but they did it right, and you're never going to have an issue again.
Exactly.
It's experience.
It is, and kind of with the topic of bridging the gap, it's somebody else bridged the information and condensed it and presented to you in a very most efficient way that you can learn it, understand it, and put it in practice within the week.
Yeah.
And, I think everybody should strive, whether you're a strength and conditioning coach, chiropractor, physical therapist, athletic trainer, you should strive to be that person,
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that they have a lot of certifications, but they don't understand how to use them and they can't apply them, you
So
know,
true.
and that's where it kind of, comes, I'm like, okay, you spend so much money getting these letters behind your name, going to these places, understanding all these, understanding,
Yeah.
then you come back and you want to charge, $100 a visit, but you're only doing one thing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with what you know,
Yeah.
because it's easy, and at that point it's like, okay, well, are you taking advantage of the letters behind you because you have so much debt from them,
Yeah.
or you're actually, trying to put in use everything that you've learned?
Yeah.
So to me, sometimes learning from other individuals, such as like other doctors, or listening to somebody and say, like, for example, you with HRV and recovery, I don't know why I never put that one together. you know why didn't I come up with it? Because I never looked at it from the viewpoint that you did.
Yeah.
But I take your, and I give you credit because you have an amazing beard.
That's the
But
only reason, though.
it's the only reason, really. I don't get much credit if you don't have a beard. Um, uh, but but I take what I've learned from you and I use it with my patients, and I, don't really necessarily tell them HRV because they actually have no idea what it means. And for them to do it, they would have to measure it like 13 times a day for the next, 2 to 3 months and be able to understand it, But to the simple premise of, if you're not recovering, or if you're not getting into a state where you're able to recover, we're not going to make any progress.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what we do, what intervention there is, what treatment you do. I could be the most popular, I could be the next generation of Stu McGill. And if I'm not able to get you into a place where you're actually recovering through all my methodologies, I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting your money, and you're not getting any better.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big disservice to the patient and client. As a strength and conditioning coach, you want the patient to lose weight. You want the client to lose weight. You want the client to get stronger. If they want bigger arms, you want them to have bigger arms. Exactly. But if you're not producing the results, but you keep hooking them on like, yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. It just takes time. Which it does.
Yeah.
But you see transformations online, 6 months, 8 months, 3 years, 6 years, and people look different.
Absolutely.
Because their body reacts different to the stress that you put into it, and we'll go back to stress. But in essence, like, you have to do what's best for the individual, regardless of what you like.
Yeah.
If you're the guy that just likes to curl all day long and you have big arms, great, good for you, right? But if you have if you have a non-trained person or an athlete that's never done curls before because they've never needed them, but all of a sudden they have, a tendinopathy, you can't have them do curls all day long the same rate as you did, because it's not going to change anything for them. You have to apply a different stress on a different load and in a different manner. Yep. And that's where, like, the application of the knowledge that you learn comes into play.
Absolutely, man.
Not just the letters behind you.
And there's a lot to it. And it's like, that's what I love. Like, that's what really drew me towards recovery. It's like, recovering towards an injury, a little bit different protocol, like recovering from an adaptation from a specific trigger of strength training, weightlifting, Olympic lifting, sprinting. Like, if you're an athlete, you are going through practices, you're going through competitions and everything. That's an additional stressor. If they're an athlete that's in college, now they have academics that they're literally looking into. So it's like, there's so much. And then even individuals that have, I want to say, emotional stress, like, they might have family stress. Like, there's so many different things that can really impact the way that your body adapts to that stressor.
Oh
And
yeah.
talking about a recovery like injury, like if you have pain, and you nailed the dot on this, is this talking about if you want to get your body to like get better and actually heal over time, but yet you're just stressed every single day, like, and you're on your phone, you're not actually present. I love that when you said that earlier. It's like not being present with something. It's like, it's great. You know, you have the people, oh, you're doing their stuff with them and that they're not paying attention. I'm like, no, like pay attention to how your body feels, like being how like your hips moving, like muscles are activating, like actually squeezing your calves when you're doing a calf raise, like bringing this attentional focus to not necessarily just strength training, but your treatment, your intervention, your strength training session, your program, like knowing what the actual thing's going to do. And if you don't understand it, ask people that do, you know, and like, you know, will be expensive, but it does come with a price. Like, you know, if a person has dedicated $80,000 towards a freaking degree, either they didn't
or more
pay it off, or they got to pay it off somehow. But no, it's huge.
But you know, what is, let's say, for example, let's just take the calf raise, right? So somebody doesn't know how to do a calf raise, right? So what's the problem with it, right? Well, one, they may overdo it. They may not be able to walk for a couple of days, you know, super sore. You know, they'll walk funny for a few days. But if they repeat it, and then all of a sudden change the stress, what can happen? You can have an injury, right? So asking somebody, you know, for $80, let's just say, for $80, 30 minutes of their time to actually teach you why to do a calf raise, how to do a calf raise, and how often to do it, in the long run is going to save you time from walking, right? Funny. It's going to save you an injury, which we don't know what injury could it be. Could it be your Achilles tendon pop in? So that saves you, you know, from the surgery, recovery, PT, and all that stuff. So an $80 investment for 30 minutes of your time save them, you know, $3,000 to $4,000 down the line 6 months.
Yep.
Now, can we say that it's going to happen? No, it's not, right? We can't really predict all that stuff. You know, some people may have amazing recovery skills, and you know, you may have that like novice effect where you start training, everything just, you're going up in weight, you're doing more reps every session, you're actually getting stronger, but then you hit that plateau, right? And then you get like psychologically screwed because you're just like, what's going on? You know, like I've only been doing this for 3 months. So it's, you know, it's those points where you have to invest in, kind of see it as an investment in yourself. You know, paying an expert to tell you this is this, and this is how you do it, this is how it's going to work, and done, right? Now, if you don't want to pay for like personal training sessions, like just ask, you know, I mean, most personal trainers that I know, at least here in the area, their hourly rate is $40. So most of them are quite, you know, non-expensive, and, you know, people can actually ask and have a full hour with them. But it's the information that you're learning from them that you're spending on, you know, it's not just, I have a few clients that they tell me, it's like, I am here just to do what you tell me to do. And I'm fine with that, right? Because as long as they listen to me and do what I tell them to do, they are the most present individual in the session. Because if they come in and they kind of know what they're doing and they want to do it their own way, and I'm telling them to do it a certain way, it creates a conflict because they already know how to do it. So why should I be telling them how to do it? They're only paying me to write the program, watch them squat, and that's it. And I think that's the wrong attitude to have, especially when it comes to training. You know, like we go back to being present. It's like, it's not just understanding that, you know, when you deadlift, you're pushing and pulling. And when you tell somebody, I want you to push and I want you to pull, they have no idea what you mean. You know, because to them, deadlift is just lifting heavy weight from the floor all the way up. What's pushing? What's pulling? Why am I pushing? Why am I pulling? You know, I just need to stand up straight, right? And I lost my general thought because I just saw the USPS person walk by.
You're like, I got a delivery coming.
I am waiting on a new delivery, but
hopefully it's fitness equipment.
No, it's a keyboard.
It's
but
the
it's okay.
best delivery of anything is always getting some sort of delivery. Like you're like, oh, it's going to be here soon. It's going to be here soon.
Oh man, that's the funny thing. When I've ordered like fitness equipment, my apartment complex has a door out on the outside where just certain people can come in. They'll just leave it out there because they don't want to bring it in, and I'm like, oh man, like somebody's gonna steal that, but nobody knows what it is.
Yeah.
And when they pick it up, it's heavy as can be.
Yeah, I've
So I'm
ordered
like,
a kettlebell before, and I think it was like 40 to 45 pounds or something like that. And it's a little small box, but it's like you pick it up, you're like, all right.
like when you order kettlebells, it's like, nope, just gonna leave it here.
I got to warm up first.
But, going back to just investing in yourself as an individual by asking the person to help you, it's going to save you in the long run. If you think of this, okay, so I remember where we were going, like prevention, right? Like you can't prevent an injury. The injury is going to happen regardless of what you do, right? If your body is to the point where the injury is going to happen, it's going to happen. Yeah. You can do all the soft tissue that you want. You can get adjusted all you want. You can drink all the kombucha. You can be super nutritious, and you can do everything to the T. Yeah. If the injury is meant to happen, it will happen, right? That's why there's a lot of people saying like, well, all these screens, they don't really help. All these screens, they don't really tell you something, and it's like, you may be right. They may not be predictors of future injury, but they can guide you into programming or delivering the better treatment. Yeah. Whichever way you're looking at it. So you can program better. If a person, like, for example, yourself, if you can't touch your toes with your feet together, in my head is, in what sport do you need your feet together? Yeah. Other than swimming. And swimming is just that initial phase where you're on the board and you're looking for the best recoil. Yeah. If you can't touch your toes because your hamstrings are tight, I'm probably not going to touch them. Yeah. Because you need that hamstring tightness to propulse you from that platform. Yeah. Right? It's, moving a little bit into posture. It's like, what is the perfect posture? Right? Somebody nice and tall, open shoulders, chin retracted, beautiful vertical line, right? But we're not gonna give Michael Phelps a thoracic kyphosis because he doesn't need it, right? If we actually gave him a thoracic kyphosis, we'd probably put him like a few seconds behind, and we'd strip him from all his medals that he's ever been able to win.
Absolutely.
Right? So posture in itself is going to be a little bit more on individual dependence versus what you want it to be, right? I mean, Olympic lifters need a lot more extension in the thoracic spine, but they also need good hip mobility, good ankle mobility, and they need good shoulder mobility. Yeah. Hockey players may not need that much extension in the spine, but they still need good shoulder mobility, good hip mobility, and an amazing ability to stay on the skates. Yeah. Because if you ask me, I've gone ice skating once, never doing it again. I think I spent more time on the ice than on the skates, but could be just that I'm Mexican. Darn it.
Well, hey, it's practice now. It's all, if you want.
Yeah, no, at that point,
NHL player, you could do it. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, man, and I appreciate everything that you talked about today. It's like there's so much information, like, and that's the thing that I want to take with these Train Smart episodes is this: reach out to professionals that have a better understanding of specific topics, and bring that professionalism into the academics of educating people, and not necessarily just coaches and just other practitioners, but potentially just general population, individuals that necessarily aren't trainers, aren't coaches, aren't chiropractors, but can take this information and just be like, hey, that actually applies to me and I can use that. And oh, I didn't know this. Like, the whole kinetic chain thing, like, oh, that makes sense, but I didn't know about that. Maybe I should kind of start maybe looking into it a little bit more, reach out to somebody. to understand it on a deeper level. And that's what I love. Like everything that you talked about, just kind of bridging the gap in between everything is awesome. You know, there's so many different ways to visualize it. And that's what I loved.
And, ultimately that's my end goal, be able to bridge the gap between healthcare and the community, right? And be able to educate a lot more people than I can, right?
Yep.
I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't know what I don't know.
Yep.
And if you ever ask me a question and I don't know it, I'm more than comfortable to say, you know what, I'll get back to you next visit, or let me look more into that, learn that the hard way, but I think learning the hard way is the best way. So
That's fine. Like honestly, like there's so many times that I've said that, like, and I've always said that in my career. It's like, let me look into that. Or I might have to recommend you to somebody, be like, hey, you know what?
Exactly.
I do know somebody that might know that better. So here, I'm going to give you their information. Here you go. Contact them. And I'll definitely let them know that you're going to be contacting them to do so and so. But yeah, it's like, there's so much information and I appreciate it, man. Like there's so much information that we were able to discuss, between chiropractic and the strength and conditioning and, just performing the connection, the communication between, a coach, an athletic trainer, treatment protocols and all that. And I really enjoyed having you on, man.
Well, I've really enjoyed being here. I think this is the most I'll be talking all day because I think from now on my fiance will be doing all the talking and directing me on what to do and what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day. So I appreciate you, letting me talk with you for a couple of, I don't know what we did, an hour, 45 minutes, something like that.
That's perfect though, man. Say, well, enjoy, you're planning your wedding. I know that you said you have roughly about 3 more weeks or something. So
yeah, man, 21 days.
Well, enjoy the honeymoon if you guys are going on that shortly after.
We're definitely we're gonna do a little bit more of a millennial honeymoon, so we're gonna wait a couple of months.
Yeah, that's fine though. If you guys are busy and everything, it makes sense. But thank you so much, man. Appreciate all the information. Anyone that watched, thank you. If you guys ever have questions, feel free to ask us on Instagram, Facebook, email us, call us, whatever the case may be. Do you want to supply any of your Instagram accounts or anything like that?
Yeah. So my Instagram account is Elite Spine Plus. You guys can reach me there. I just made my personal private just because I want to keep it out of the eyes of, just the whole world.
Yeah.
My Facebook is Dr. KFFMN. That's just Kauffman without the vowels.
Yeah.
And they can reach me there as well. And I'm planning of starting a YouTube channel at some point. So, when that comes around, I'll let you know so that we can do this again and, we'll post it somewhere.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, if anybody has any questions or is interested in chiropractic or strength and conditioning, they can reach me in either place. They can also email me at drk@elitespineplus.com.
Awesome.
So any questions are welcome, and I'll be as thorough trying to answer them. And if I don't know, I'll send you guys to somebody that does know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. Take it easy. Have a good day.
You too, man. Thank you.
Bye.
Adios.